Morning, everyone. Welcome. Let's begin with a short Buddhist chant. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So that small chant is often chanted at the beginning of special sessions, and basically it's paying homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One, the fully enlightened one, and then homage to the Dharma, his teachings, and the Sangha, those that have practiced well towards full enlightenment. So welcome to this day, being here now, a wonderful occasion. It's always great to share special occasions with people in a special way, especially along the lines of meditation, mindfulness, Buddhist wisdom. So very auspicious. We're blessed with a lovely clear sky day. It's not hot. The weather's cool, very pleasant. Bit of sunshine, but not too glaring. A lovely winter's day. Very good for meditation. Sitting meditation inside, maybe even outside if you like, and also some walking meditation as well. So just setting up our focus, our perspective, our way of engaging our day that certainly aligns with the first path or practice factor in Buddhism, which is right view. Everything begins by having the right, correct, wholesome, skillful view. If we begin with a view or perspective that's not right or correct or misaligned, then we can end up sort of going askew. So setting up the view for our day of meditation practice. So to see it as a day which is very much an opportunity for ourselves to practice individually, putting in right effort, but also practicing as a group, because how we engage ourselves in terms of mind, speech, and body for the day certainly will affect others. So a mindful way of being, a mindful way of engaging the moment, the ongoing moments, then flows on to how we can be and sense and feel and relate to others, obviously in a mindful way as well. So we're a group, the body of a group practicing meditation for this day. And this day being, yes, a retreat day, but a special retreat day, given that it is the full moon tonight of July, which marks the beginning of one of the oldest retreats in humanity's history. So this retreat has been going on every year for the last 2,500 years, nearly 2,600 years. It's called the Vassa retreat. So it's a retreat that the Buddha 2,600 years ago declared as a time for practitioners, monks, nuns, and other practitioners to determine to use this 3-month period from the full moon of July to the full moon of October as a time for focusing more on meditation, being mindful, studying, learning, wisdom, principles, practices, appreciations, and a time for inner growth, and also a time to connect and collect as a community, spiritual community. So the Vassa, which is traditionally in Asia, the period of the monsoon, the rainy season. And so it was the history of this retreat was that lay people were complaining that monks and nuns were traditionally wandering, walking around from place to place, spending time in different forests and groves and monasteries, and they were damaging the levees between the paddy fields, and just with walking, because it was rainy as well. And the Buddha said, okay, well, I'm going to make this time, the rainy season, a time for staying in one place and focusing on practice. So you're not out wandering around, walking around the countryside, apart from a daily alms round. And so since then, to 2,600 years, it's been a time of practice. So monks and nuns today are determining to stay in a particular place. They need special permission to be able to stay overnight somewhere else, and only if someone's relative is sick, a teacher is sick, but otherwise they need to stay in the place they've determined to for the 3-month period. And often it can be a time of extra practices. So when I was a Buddhist monk, particularly in Thailand, we do extra austere practices. So for example, Buddhist monks of the Theravada Phora tradition only eat 1 meal a day. And having gathered their alms food, the food is eaten from a large alms bowl. But as an example of a practice, if someone comes and offers a bowl of dessert, ice cream or mangoes or something, then you can have it in that little bowl that they've offered. But during the Vassa retreat, you tip it into your bowl with all the curries and stuff, and that's all mixed in. Just to sort of not be attached to nice flavors and so forth. Or some monks might practice not speaking for 3 months. So they'll have a little notebook hanging around their neck in case they want to say something or ask a question or something. So, or maybe quiet and austere practice is not lying down for 3 months. What's called is the sitter's practice. So they'll sit, lean back to sleep, which I saw other monks doing it, and I don't recommend it at all. I never tried it because I could see that when they went to sit meditation, they just fall asleep. That sort of conditioning, closing your eyes, sitting, go to sleep. But for us, it can be a time to go, okay, well, 12 weeks. Yes, I'm going to make sure I do some ideally daily meditation, even if it's just a few minutes, daily meditation. But ideally daily meditation, it could be 20, 30, 40, 50, an hour of meditation each day. Maybe also it might be, okay, I'm going to get up earlier each day. I'm going to get more sleep each evening. Or maybe less sleep if you already sleep too much. Or there's some things I'm going to study. There's some books on meditation or wisdom teachings, Buddhist teachings I want to sort of focus on. Or might be some dietary things, sort of decide to not eat certain foods or eat certain foods over the 3-month period. And 12 weeks is a really good amount of time to change some habits, particularly old habits, unhealthy habits. So 12 weeks, make some changes, and ideally that they then flow on to the days, weeks, months beyond the full moon in October. And so that the more you engage in these Vassa retreats, then the healthier and the happier you become. I've shaved my hair off for the Vassa retreat. So anyone else is welcome to as well, including women. You can always wear a beanie. But again, make this a special block of time to engage. And obviously we'll be engaging a non-residential Vassa retreat, punctuated with four monthly sessions. So this is the first of the 4, and then each month after that up until the full moon in October. But so non-residential, so practicing your meditation at home, continuing with your practices at home, making it a special time. You might even let other people know that you may be observing certain practices, that they can maybe help you by accommodating that, whatever they may be, but not to inconvenience others too much. And also, if you don't come already to the Thursday night drop-in group, it can be a good time to come along to some extra meditation sessions at the weekly Thursday night group, 6:30 to 7:30, held here. Again, making it a time of motivation, inspiration, more clarity, more calm, more peace, ethics, morality, virtues, and wisdom, a foundation for our life, for well-being. I've been engaging these retreats apart from when I was a Buddhist monk for 11 years, but over the last 5 years, this is the 5th one that I've had. The first couple I had organized those down at Bodhi Tree Forest Monastery because we're renovating the place here, so it wasn't suitable to be here. But the last 3 being here, which is a nice space. And also developing a sense of community. So people coming in, if you can come each month, that's really great. I know that there's some people that are connecting on Zoom. So welcome to those people that are connecting on Zoom. And people that are living away from here, can't get to here. And we are recording the session so that those that can't be present on Zoom today can maybe see it later. Also, if yourselves, if you want to review anything on that later, also note that obviously if you ask a question, it's going to be recorded. We don't need to record people's faces unless you want to be shown. But again, it's an opportunity to make the most of this 3-month session and 3-month period. And I feel blessed that I can share this with like-minded people. And something which I found very special when I was a Buddhist monk. I have great memories of the various Vassa retreats in various monasteries that I stayed. And so now we can be doing this on the Tweed Coast here at Ratanagiri, generating good karma, wholesome karma, many blessings for ourselves and for others, even for the whole area. There's not many places in Australia that are engaging a Vassa retreat. Certain areas where there's monasteries, but they're far and few between. So blessing for the Tweed Coast, the Tweed Valley area. Wonderful. The idea of a retreat, just to set that up in our mind. So retreat, a movement away, a movement back, a stepping back. And in a way, we're moving away from the ways of the world, stepping back from the hustle, the bustle, the busyness, worldly values, appreciating a different way of being, both in our sessions here, but also maybe for the period of the 3 months as well, being less caught up in mundane issues, worldly issues, views and opinions, politics, which certainly can be challenging because there's some interesting politics happening in the world at the moment. But to see that they often just add to confusion and frustration. So to be able to go, okay, well, I'm going to not get caught up in that stuff. If there's any sort of significant worldly news that needs to be known, then we'll hear about it. Even if you decide, okay, well, I'm not going to watch the news. It's just too much hype, too sort of stirring. So time to retreat away from that. And the movement is towards, so by moving away from something, we're moving towards something else. We're moving towards clarity, calm, peace, moving towards a way of wisdom, moving away from the ways of the world that are often motivated by the 3 ills. The Buddha spoke about the 3 ills that are the cause of all stress and suffering: greed in its various guises, anger, aversion, hatred, and number 3, ignorance or delusion, confusion. What I call the 3-strain virus that the unenlightened mind's inflicted or infected with, the GAI virus. It's like a tri-strain virus, psycho-spiritual virus. It affects our mind, our consciousness, and into our being, into behaviors and actions. So greed, anger, ignorance, the GAI virus. So we're moving towards the opposite, the antivirus, which is the GKW antivirus, generosity, the opposite of greed, kindness, the opposite of hatred and anger, and wisdom and understanding, the opposite of ignorance and delusion, confusion. So that is as a possibility, nourishing, nurturing our well-being, evolving, growing. The Buddha said that human beings are the unfinished creature. So whilst we can have these adult bodies, but there's still more growth, more evolving, more evolution, not just as a species generally, but as an individual. So growing through the course of our life, becoming a more mature, wiser person. And particularly that's what the world needs. The world needs more wiser people. And for that, we don't need to be over 60 with a grey beard. women included. We can be young, and we can have plenty of hair and be a wise person. That's what the world needs, and particularly we need more younger, wise people looking after things, so that that becomes part of the inspiration, motivation for engaging our Vassa retreat. Use this as a time for developing wisdom, peace and wisdom, clarity and understanding, that our life may be a blessing to others, so our immediate close sort of family, and then that flows on to people we connect with, work with, share with, be with. Again, a gift of wholesome karma to others. So again, using the retreat as a movement towards that which is wholesome and worthwhile, and what we develop and engage practices, appreciations on the retreat days, to see how they can have a carryover, flow over into our day-to-day life and living. And that's where we, I guess, gain full benefit of this period. It's not just a 3-month retreat period. It's a way of being into our life more fully, and that can bring a sense of joy and well-being. So it's not oh, this is difficult, it's a challenge, it's stressful to maintain these practices, but a sense of joy and flow in, and knowing that we're living well, joy with and for others, joy in being with others through this engagement that we have, being a representative of wholesomeness and skillfulness. People often ask why I left being a Buddhist monk, which again, I was a Buddhist monk for 11 years, from the age of 17 up until 28. So significant years of a person's life, a lot of learning and growth, and things happen between those years that often can then sort of cause the course of one's life, putting down certain foundations. And also a time that people can often get caught out, messed up with stuff. So that I got out of the possibility of messing things up and just went off to a monastery. Lots of rules and restrictions, 227 precepts, which meant you couldn't do anything except breathe, basically. Allowed to breathe. Everything else, no. But obviously I left being a Buddhist monk, and people say, so why did you leave? And there's many reasons why I left. Certainly I felt a sense of accomplishment in understanding the Buddha's teachings, practicing meditation, able to teach and help others. And I also saw that that I could continue to live and learn and grow outside of the context of monastic practice in the broader arena of life. But a tipping point occurred when I read a short saying by a spiritual practitioner, and the saying goes, there's two sorts of yogis as a spiritual practitioner. There's two sorts of yogis. There's exposed yogis and secret yogis. So the exposed yogis are the ones, when you look at them, you know you're looking at a yogi. Robe, shaven head, that's a yogi. And there's the secret yogis that are ones that just wear regular clothes. They're out there amongst us, and you're less likely to know that they're a yogi, apart from maybe how they might be being or behaving. And so I thought, well, I've been an exposed yogi for 11 years. I might become a secret yogi. So in disguise, wearing regular clothes. So we can be as well secret yogis. So being someone that's aligned to spiritual values, spiritual practices, but out there in the world, out there and sharing and being with others. And again, generating healthy values and practices through these sessions, the Vassa retreat, and again finding a sense of joy and inspiration in that. Obviously, at the end of the Vassa retreat, if you want to ordain as a monastic, that's fine as well. There's plenty of good monasteries out there. Recommend a few. but again, to make the most of our session. And today, we'll be looking into the theme for our Vassa retreat. I usually give a theme each year for a Vassa retreat. Last year it was Samma Samadhi, which is the eighth factor on the Eightfold Path in Buddhism, listed on the chart there. Samma Samadhi, translating as right or wholesome or skillful. All those 8 values, 8 practices have a Samma prefixing, so right, wholesome, skillful, view, thought, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness and concentration. So Samma Samadhi, right concentration, right meditation, which particularly is developing the deeper meditations that the Buddha highly recommended. So that was the theme from last year, which will flow on into this year as well, practicing meditation, but particularly having a look at what is called early Buddhism. So looking into the meditations and practices of early Buddhism, which I'll talk a bit about later on. And I'll certainly also be sending out information, some resources about this, so that those of you and that also on the Zoom and that have connected for our Vassa retreat, I'll be sending out emails with ongoing information you can look into, check into, including a title page for the retreat. So I recommend getting a folder if you're okay printing off stuff. So a folder, and also I'll send out a calendar so that you can tick off your meditation days, or write down the minutes, 50 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes. So you can have that as part of the inspiration. And then I'll also be sending out a number of things such as early Buddhism articles, pre-sectarian Buddhism, how early Buddhism differs from Theravada Buddhism. And so it's up to you whether you do want to print them off, read them online, or even read them at all. It's can be a bit more of a academic study, but I'll be talking about why it can be important to understand what early Buddhism is a little bit later on in the morning. So again, just the extra things to make the retreat something special. It can be good to have a bit of a journal to write down things that are insights or learnings or inspirations and motivations, verses, and things that becomes part of your Vassa retreat journal. We'll have some periods of sitting meditation, some walking meditation, and if you need to get a cup of tea, coffee, there's the urns out there. And we'll have a lunch period around about midday, about 12, and probably for about 45 minutes or so. And there'll also be some time for some questions and discussion. And then we'll finish up at 3 p.m. So if you need to leave earlier, that's fine as well. Maybe just let Pip know. Pip was just at the door there. Or otherwise, Justin, he was at the door there as well. Sort of, or Brendan, helping out with the IT. So just a few people helping out today. So let them know so that we don't think, oh, where's the person? Oh, they've wandered down the road and got lost. With the walking meditation, walking over this side on the grass, the other side on the grass, further out the front there, or down in the car park. There is a bitumen track that goes through our property here up to 3 neighbours. So maybe not good to walk on the road because the neighbours sometimes drive fairly quickly up or down that road. So just watch out if you're crossing the road going down to the car park for walking. Toilet is there on the left side looking in, and obviously if the door is closed, it probably means someone's in there. So if it's been closed for a while, just give a knock. Maybe it means someone's not in there, but the door's just closed. I think that's about it. Any questions just before we begin about the retreat generally?
Do we need the overhead lights?
Maybe not. We can maybe turn those off. Save some power. We'll be having our eyes closed anyway. Good. Okay, well, again, welcome, and let's settle into our day with a meditation, sitting meditation. If you need to stretch for a moment before we sit for about 30 minutes, feel free to do so. So as a lead into or guide for our meditation, having established a comfortable sitting position, aligning our body with some degree of symmetry, balance, poise, helping to enable some inner mindful presence. Eyes gently closed, helping to bring awareness within. And having an initial deep, relaxing, letting go breath. A nice deep breath sends a signal to our brain to release endorphins, to soothe the muscles, tendons, tissue of our body. And the outgoing breath is also a psychological symbol of letting go. So breathing out, letting go of issues, worries, concerns, moving our mind on to retreat, retreating from the ways of the world, the issues and concerns of self, moving towards mindful knowing, mindful being, mindful presence. The possibility of developing inner calm, clarity, peace, even profound peace. Using the meditation of Samma Samadhi, collectedness, mindful composure of mind, mindful concentration, and particularly the avenue to enable that being mindfulness of breathing, anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. So not forcing or controlling our breath, but just breathing naturally and using the breath, the sensation of the breath, as a reference point for the present moment. Meditation is practicing being present in a calm, objective, receptive, attentive way. The breath becomes the perfect object of meditation for that. But before focusing on the sensation of our breath, just relaxing our awareness down into our body, getting a sense of our body sitting here, a sense of the mind arriving into the body, where we're sitting, mindfulness of the body. Noticing some contact sensations, maybe feeling the feet connecting with the floor, contact sensation, feet against the floor. Bringing our awareness up to sense and feel the touch of our body connecting with the chair, the cushion, or the meditation stool, just mindfully noticing that sensation. Sensing, feeling, noticing. Reference point for present moment experience, contact sensation. Bringing our awareness up further to our face, noticing our face, and maybe even feeling the air connecting with our face, some cool air against our face. Noticing light coming in through the closed eyelids. Even though the eyelids are closed, there's still some degree of light coming in, creating the sensory experience of lightness, brightness, color, patterning, or a blankness. Simply seeing that, looking into that lightness, brightness, blankness through the closed eyelids. Not being distracted by background sounds. And particularly not getting caught into the internal sound or sight of thoughts. Meditation's a chance to take a break from the need to be engaging thought and thinking, allowing a new way of the mind engaging experience through not thinking but knowing, calm knowing, and particularly knowing the sensation of each individual breath. So consciously directing attention to the place where we feel our breath the most, which may be in the nose nostril area, particular point of sensation, directing attention to that place and sustaining or holding attention at that place. So the naturally occurring breath, not controlling the breath, but more holding attention to the sensation of the breath. Feeling that soothing in-breath, the body breathing out, feeling the soothing out-breath, making each breath special by giving attention, which allows the mind to quieten down, becoming silent, not being moving, so it becomes still and free from thoughts, mental clutter, becoming spacious. Silence, stillness, spaciousness of mind. Experiencing the profound beauty, ease, peace, joy of a calm, quiet mind. Simply by noticing each individual breath, feeling each breath, and also looking into that lightness, brightness through the closed eyelids. Forward focused gaze into the space in front through the closed eyelids. Blank screen, so to speak, of the mind, not being projected with thoughts. And if it's helpful to use a mental meditative word or two in our mind in conjunction with each in-out breath, which also helps to block the mind from getting caught up into auditory or verbal thinking. Such words as calm on the in-breath, ease on the out-breath. Calm, ease. Calm, ease. Calm, ease. Or any other one or two words that we find meaningful and inspirational for the meditation. Simply sitting, focusing attention, allowing the mind to settle into its calm, attentive knowing in the present. Each mindful breath allowing and leading the mind to calm, clarity, peace, and presence. The sitting, sensing, savoring the moment through each mindful breath, mind, body aligned in the present. Just noticing if the mind's got caught into some thinking, and if so, gently retrieving our attention and bringing it back to the present, connecting with each breath, each soothing therapeutic breath, putting in right effort to sustain and hold attention in the present, feeling each breath in each moment. The sitting, being, breathing, knowing, each mindful breath nurturing, nourishing mind, body, and being. Just a few minutes left in our meditation. Putting in some extra effort to remain focused. Feeling, knowing each breath. Developing calm, clarity, peace, and presence. Just before ending this meditation, inwardly reminding ourselves to try and sustain as much of this calm, mindful focus, keeping that going on into the ongoing moments, minutes, hours of the day and evening. To end the meditation, just taking a deep breath and slowly opening our eyes to finish. So in maintaining the momentum of our mindfulness and calm attention, those of you that wish to keep sitting can do so. Those of you that wish to go outside for some walking meditation, feel free to do so. So we'll walk for about 30 minutes and I'll bring my chimes. So if you hear this sound, then just mindfully and slowly move back in again. So maintaining that momentum of mindfulness. So not speaking, but just keeping the meditation going. With the walking, just a bit of a brief. So finding a place outside, probably between 10 and 20 paces, not where someone's going to be walking across your walking path. So find a place where someone's not going to walk in front, and just mindfully, eyes open, looking down about 2 meters ahead, hands in front or behind, and probably half animal walking pace, and just feeling and focusing on the movement of the walking, and even saying in the mind, lifting, placing, lifting, placing, lifting, placing. When you get to the end of the distance, stopping and stand for a minute or two, or otherwise just turning, and then walking back again. So just gently pacing back and forth. So rather than focusing on our breath, we're focusing on the movement of the feet, which can be very good for developing focus and concentration and training the mind to be in the present. And when you feel ready, like you can come in before I ring the chimes, come back in and sit, or otherwise wait till we chime the chimes and come back in, and then we'll go into the sitting meditation again. So clocking up many minutes of meditation. So feel free to move outside and find a suitable place. So again, settling into our meditation, our sitting meditation. Establishing a comfortable sitting position. Aligning the body with some degree of symmetry, balance, poise. Enabling some inner mindful presence. The eyes gently closed, helping to bring awareness within. Having our initial deep, relaxing, letting go breath. Just relaxing and feeling into our body. Sensing and feeling the body sitting. Noticing a few reference points for the present moment. Sensation of touch. The touch of our feet against the floor. The touch of the body against the chair, cushion, or meditation stool. The touch of hands resting in our lap. Maybe that sensation of cool hands and fingers resting in our lap. Noticing our face, maybe cool air against our face. And also subtle light coming in through the closed eyelids. Just looking forward into that lightness, brightness, or blankness. Not being distracted by background sounds. And particularly not getting caught into the mental or visual, auditory sound of thoughts, sight of thoughts. Choosing to not engage into the activity of thinking. But rather choosing to bring the mind to the present moment through connecting with each soothing, therapeutic breath. Wherever we feel the sensation of the breath the most, maybe the nose nostril area. Putting in effort to direct attention and sustain attention, exercising attention. Feeling the inflow, outflow of each breath in each moment. Exercising and strengthening the mind's ability for focus, sustained attention, developing mental collectedness, mental composure, concentration. Allowing the natural arising of inner ease, mental ease, well-being, peace, and even joy. An inner natural joy that comes from a calm, clear, peaceful, present mind. Feeling and knowing each breath in each moment. Ease and joy within. Feel free to have a mindful stretch if you need to, just for a minute or two. So we've had some meditation, sitting meditation, walking meditation, sitting meditation, all good, which certainly nourishes mind, heart, body, particularly heart, sense of feeling, being, knowing. Now we can have some mental considerations, gauge some thoughts. It's a bit of a change of gear. The theme of our Vassa retreat this year, as mentioned, is early Buddhism, which is a term, concept that hasn't been around for that long, probably around for 20 years or so, so not long in the context of 2,600 years of Buddhism. And it's a term which I myself only have really started to look into. Certainly when I was a Buddhist monk, there wasn't this term early Buddhism. The earliest form of Buddhism, let's say school of Buddhism, has always been appreciated to be the Theravada school of Buddhism, the Theravada tradition. Theravada, Pali word, ancient Indian language of early Buddhism, Pali. So Theravada means a school of the elders, or the tradition of the elders. Thera means elders. And amidst the four schools of Buddhism, Theravada, Mahayana, we can include Zen in there. Zen Buddhism, which is a branch or break away from Mahayana, and then Vajrayana, which is means a diamond vehicle, particularly Tibetan Buddhism, and Theravada Buddhism being the older, more original orthodox school of Buddhism. But in saying that, there's a period of Buddhism before the school of Theravada developed. And so that over the last 20 years, with the ability for people to do significant research through computers and online research, the translation of many texts, certainly the early Buddhist texts, the Pali teachings of the Buddha, but also some of the Chinese texts as well, have been researched, looked into, understood, translated by various monastics and scholars, academics alike, and then writing articles about the early time of the Buddha and the development of the schools of Buddhism. So it's become something which is somewhat of a phenomena that people can then sort of look into what is even called pre-sectarian Buddhism, which fundamentally is the teachings and practices of certainly the Buddha and the Buddhist monastics before the schools, the various schools and traditions developed. So, and I'll be certainly sending out some research information, some articles about this. Just as a bit of a brief, There's an article which I'll send out by Bhikkhu Analayo. He's a practice and scholastic Buddhist monk, German by background, and ordained in the Theravada tradition. He's written a number of books. One of his books on the Satipatthana Sutta, the mindfulness of the foundations of mindfulness teaching of the Buddha. He did his, I think it was his master's degree on that. But this small article, he says, the expression early Buddhism refers to the earliest period in the development of Buddhist thought and practice, spanning from its inception to about the time of the reign of Asoka, that's King Asoka, who was an Indian king, in the 3rd century BCE. The time of inception, in other words, the time when the Buddha himself would have lived, is difficult to determine with certainty. Nevertheless, the period of early Buddhism can be taken to comprise, very roughly speaking, about 2 centuries. These 2 centuries of development in thought and practice are common ground from which the different Buddhist traditions developed and which they all took as their central inspiration. One of these is the tradition we nowadays refer to as Theravada, which needs to be differentiated from early Buddhism. The term Theravada can be used to describe the South and Southeast Asian traditions since the time of the transmission of Buddhism to Sri Lanka during the reign of King Asoka, although at that time the term was not yet in use in this way. And from then onwards, it can be applied to various manifestations of this tradition, or better, of these traditions, none not only in South and Southeast Asia, but also more recently in the West. He also says, in contrast, early Buddhism is no longer a living tradition, simply because it refers to an early age in the development of Buddhism that by now is long over. He also says, in other words, early Buddhism is a precious fossil from a bygone time. It can provide much inspiration, but it cannot be revived. And I'll again send this and a number of articles to you. So the Buddha lived and practiced between the 6th and 5th century BC. And so that period from that time up until the time of the reign of King Asoka, there's a couple of 100 years there. And during that time, foundation of certainly the Buddha's teachings, the Buddha taught for 45 years, and he spoke in a language which, again, is a little bit unsure, not quite Pali, but similar to Pali, Magadha, a type of a dialect, and of which the most common sort of understanding of the language is the Pali language. Also, Sanskrit has been used later on in the Buddha's teachings as well, but the Buddha didn't so much speak Sanskrit. And in that period of time, 45 years of him teaching, most of his teachings, a lot of the teachings were remembered, recited, and recorded through memory of the various monks that would be with him, listening to teachings, and then recite those teachings back to other monks that would learn them, remember them, particularly Venerable Ananda, who was the attendant monk for the Buddha for, I think it was about 30 years. So the Buddha taught for 45 years, and so Ananda was his attendant for many of those years. And Ananda had a great power of memory, a lot of RAM up there. So he was able to remember and recite and record these teachings. And at that time in the Buddha's teachings and life and dispensation, things were quite simple, and certainly an early time in India before things developed politically further, especially like moving into the time of King Ashoka. And so it's a significant period to look into and understand in the context of both what is early Buddhism and also why have a look at it, why understand it, why appreciate it, what have we got to learn from it? Particularly because when Buddhism moved into other countries, it modified. So we can even discern here, Buddhism is different from the Buddha's teachings. So the Buddha's teachings is what the Buddha said. Buddhism is like Christianity. Christianity is a lot different to what Christ or Jesus may have said and taught and how he practiced. So it becomes something different, something modified, something expanded, something that maybe is, we could even say, more usable for certain people because it adopts cultural wrappings, trappings, things that people can relate to. So it's a bit like a food, say a curry, and that curry may be modified according to different tastes of different people, different cultures, and so forth. More chili, less chili, more curry powder, less curry powder, whatever, or vegetarian curry. So too Buddhism has evolved in that way as well. I was speaking with Venerable Metaji, who's a English Buddhist monk based here in Australia. He's at Bodhinyana Monastery. We connected with him via Zoom this morning, and he knows that we're looking into early Buddhism for our Vassa retreat sort of theme or study. And he said that two of his colleagues, Venerable Sujato, who's an Australian Buddhist monk, who I know quite well, and also Ajahn Brahmali. He's actually, I think, from Sweden, and both of them are based at Bodhinyana Monastery in Perth. They've looked extensively into early Buddhism, its teachings, even what they're calling EBT, early Buddhist texts, so the texts of early Buddhism, or the teachings, and together with also Bhikkhu Analayo, and they've come up to an appreciation that what is within the Pali canon, the collection of the Buddha's teachings, which is seen to be the oldest collection, is 99% true to what the Buddha taught and practiced. So it becomes a very reliable resource. And that's where Theravada Buddhism is appreciated as the oldest surviving school of Buddhism. However, just after this time of, or I'd say around and after this time of King Ashoka, there were 18 different schools of Buddhism. So 18 different ones. They varied mainly in terms of sort of philosophical appreciation. So the practices were pretty much the same, but their sort of orientation in terms of interpretation of a particular teaching varied slightly. Enough for them to different groups to feel we're different from that group. We have a different emphasis. So these 18 different schools, and obviously they died out, so that now we have the four main ones, or even three main ones: Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana, and Zen as a breakaway from the Mahayana. So these, but Theravada being that more sort of original one, which is appreciated in terms of connecting back also into early Buddhism. Some of the scholars and researchers have done various sort of look into research translations of some of the early teachings, that also from Chinese, to see where is there a commonality between the Chinese, what's found in Chinese collections of teachings, Mahayana, and then also Pali, to see where there's commonality, and that's what they're seeing and appreciating as the early teachings. If we consider, well, why is it important to look into this? Well, again, Buddhism is evolving and changing, and certainly the expression of Buddhism as it's happening in the West, so to speak, countries like Europe and or places like Europe and America and England, Australia, it's developing in a way that's somewhat different to what it was in Asia. So even though, yes, I was a Theravada Buddhist monk and practiced in Thailand and in the forest tradition, the forest tradition, Thai forest tradition, which probably is more aligned to the way in which the Buddha practiced 2,500 years ago than any other tradition in Buddhism. So living in the forest very simply, observing all the monastic precepts, so that even still, Thai Buddhism, Thailand being a Theravada Buddhist country, has extra things which they've added to Buddhism to make it more of a Thai flavor as opposed to maybe a Burmese flavor or maybe even a Sri Lankan flavor. So there's different cultural things that have been added. There's similarities that run through, and especially the foundation teachings, but it has been modified slightly. And also even into then Laos, another Theravada Buddhist country, Cambodia and Vietnam, they're Mahayana Buddhist countries. And then we have China and Korea, Taiwan, Mahayana Buddhist countries, Japan and parts of Korea, Zen Buddhism, and then obviously Tibet, Bhutan, Vajrayana Buddhism. So they have been modified and changed. And so now in like even for us here on the Tweed Coast, Tweed Valley, practicing Buddhism, meditation, to see, well, okay, so what are we practicing and what are we looking at? What are we understanding? And what's going to develop from what we have? Are we going to be a bit more Thai or a bit more Japanese or Taiwanese or Korean? And fundamentally, I think that it's good to go back to what are the early Buddhist teachings, to see what was the foundation. As Bhikkhu Analayo said, we can't go back in time to sort of be that. That's a foundation stage, but we can certainly learn and appreciate what that was, so that we also know what we're adding on to that, if we are indeed adding on anything. Like the fact this is a Buddha image from Sri Lanka. There's one out there from Thailand. There's one down the front, which is actually from Indonesia. So all a slightly different emphasis. The one at the end of the back of the room, I think, is from Cambodia. And they all look a little bit different. They look like a Sri Lankan person, a Thai person, a Cambodian person. This one probably mostly looks like European people. But again, it's just the flavor and the wrappings and the trappings that are added on to make people feel comfortable. So that for us to go, okay, well, the foundation teachings of the Buddha, both in terms of the practice and then also the teachings, what are they? Because ideally that can be maintained. It may be within a certain context, say Theravada forest tradition, but to know that, again, what we're adding onto that. I can also say that certainly over the last probably 30 years since I've been back in Australia, so 10, 11 years as a Buddhist monk overseas, 30 years back here, I've seen Buddhism becoming more psychological. Not that it wasn't to begin with. So the Buddha's teachings are a psychology of the mind, to understand the nature of the mind. It also has a philosophical approach to life. It's certainly an ethical, it's a foundation in ethics. Also, there's a social engagement with Buddhism as well, but it has become more psychological, even when we now have the mindfulness movement, which, mindfulness being the foundation teaching and practice in Buddhism. Yes, samasati, the seventh factor of the Eightfold Path, right mindfulness. But mindfulness, which has become a huge movement, is particularly in the area of psychology, psychotherapy, health, and even beyond that. We've got mindful parenting, we've got mindful golf playing, we've got the mindful leader, mindfulness in the marketplace, and they're now calling it mindfulness. So we have to be careful that the Buddhism doesn't sort of change too much and we lose what it was really for and about. But the psychological side of it is maybe helpful in that Buddhism, the Buddhist teachings, do need a way of a language and means of expression, and also understanding. So a lot of the way in which people are talking about meditation is for the health benefits, the neurological sort of studies of the brain, how meditation helps the brain, helps to enhance the prefrontal cortex, helps to increase neural activity in certain parts of the brain, helps to increase white matter, helps to increase oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, decreasing cortisol, adrenaline, lowering blood pressure, increasing the blood flow, enhancing the immune system. So all that's good, but it's a way that people can then understand and appreciate meditation, and maybe also then find a way into things beyond just meditation, wisdom practices and principles, hence the Buddha's teachings. So that's all okay. But again, it's important to have the whole of the teachings and practice, which is that of Sila, Samadhi, Panya. So the Trinity practice and appreciation in Buddhism is Sila, Samadhi, Panya. So morality, a foundation of virtue, morality, ethics. Because if we don't have that, then it's very difficult to calm and quiet and still the mind. The mind needs to be stilled in the context of people living in a wholesome, healthy, moral way. So that sort of virtual morality ethics is a foundation for then developing the mind of samadhi. So collectedness, concentration, focus, purification of the mind. So the mind that develops that collectedness is freed from the five hindrances, the things that cause distress and disturbance in the mind. So thoughts of sense desire, thoughts of aversion or ill will, mental dullness, mental agitation, distraction, and skeptical doubt. So by collecting, focusing, purifying the mind's freed from those five hindrances. And the hindrances that hinder or hold back the mind from its purity and clarity, those hindrances are manifestations of fundamental greed, anger, and ignorance. So there's a purification and a wisdom process happening at the same time. It takes wisdom to appreciate, to not get caught up in thinking about stuff that's interesting, exciting, but doesn't ultimately lead to enlightenment. And so when the mind is calm and clear and purified and focused and powerful, that's when the mind can see things more clearly. And that's where insight develops, and insight that can then get translated into wisdom, living our life from in a wise way. It's not enough just to have an insight. It needs to be lived. And that's where insight transforms into wisdom, being a wise person. Not just insightful, and then it's left, but wisdom, a wise person. Because it's wisdom that then frees the mind from, again, also these three ills. So it's like samadhi develops wisdom, or to say concentration develops wisdom, and wisdom also then develops the samadhi. They flow on and feed and support each other. So these are the three elements, the three practices that the Buddha sort of put forth as our way of practice: morality, meditation, and wisdom. And that's as a early Buddhist, fundamental Buddhist teaching, needs to be emphasized and practiced. And also in the context of the Eightfold Path. So one of, even though the first of the Buddha's teachings was the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, which is the turning of the wheel of truth discourse, in which the Buddha goes through the Eightfold Path, again, which is on the chart here, which becomes a whole approach to living our life mindfully and consciously. It includes mind, speech, and body. So right view, how we see things, the right engagement of thought, the right use of thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. And also within that is also the, let's say, not even within that, but the Four Noble Truths, the dukkha arya satcha, so the Four Noble Truths of suffering, stress or unease, of which the fourth truth is the Eightfold Path. So the Buddha said that there is the truth of the fact of stress and suffering in life. Aging is a source of stress and suffering. Illness, loss, um, greed, anger, ignorance cause stress and suffering. So there's a truth of the fact of life does involve stress and suffering. There's a cause, second truth, there's a cause to our stress and suffering. Find out what that cause is. And fundamentally, the cause is clinging, craving, wanting, holding, grasping, as opposed to letting go with wisdom. Then the third truth, there's a possibility of freedom from stress and suffering. Ultimately, enlightenment, nibbana, or in Sanskrit, nirvana, realizing ultimate freedom. And then there is the fourth truth, the practice path leading to the ending of stress and suffering, which is the Eightfold Path. So in that teaching, there's enough there, to go all the way through to full, complete spiritual freedom, enlightenment. However, the Buddha taught many places, many people in various ways, which is why there's a lot of Buddhist teachings, and that's why there's also a lot of different emphasis on different teachings, which have developed into different schools of Buddhism. But fundamentally, it is pretty simple and enough to go on all the way through to enlightenment. So over the course of our Vassa retreat, we'll look further into more understanding explanations of what was the Buddhist teachings in the certainly the 45 years that he did teach before he died at the age of 80. What were those teachings, and also how did the Buddha instruct to practice? And what was his instruction for meditation? And then also how did the monastics, the monks and nuns, how did they practice? Also lay people as well, because Buddhism became very popular, mainly in the northern parts of India. At the time that the Buddha was teaching in his prime, and certainly before he died, there was thousands of monastics and thousands of people that were would see themselves as Buddhists. And obviously now there's millions in the world that that would see themselves as Buddhists, certainly in Southeast Asia. And again, it's this movement towards the West. The Buddha predicted that his teachings would arise in the East, and in time they would fade out in the East, and they would then settle in the West. The West as in like the Western countries, which obviously that's happened over the last century. But then in time they would fade out here, and there'd be no more the Buddha's teachings as a path to enlightenment. And then maybe in time there would be another person that realizes reality, truth, freedom for themselves, and thus be termed a Buddha. Someone has realized the teachings without relying on another enlightened person. So no enlightened people, person realizes full enlightenment, and that person then is considered a Buddha, and then may teach. Teachings will last for a certain amount of time. The Buddha said that his teachings would last about 5,000 years. So we're now sort of halfway through that. It's 2,500 years since the Buddha. So they may be declining. As to whether they last 5,000 or 4,000 or 6,000, it's conjecture. But certainly on the deathbed or just before the Buddha died, his last words were, "All things are transient. Realize enlightenment with earnestness." So realize your enlightenment with earnestness. So not so much hang around, have a great time, or hang around and just meditate and get reborn again and again and again, but realize your enlightenment in this very lifetime. Because who knows what's going to happen next time? Who knows what sort of situation may be happening, and it may be more difficult to find one's way to meditation and Buddhist wisdom in the next life. So if we've got a good chance this life, make the most of it. Make the most of it. Who wants to get reborn to have to go back to school again? Certainly, that were very much aware of the challenges of society and the world and the planet and ecology and the environment and so forth. So it's like, hey, how many more decades or even centuries will our planet, our home, be okay for living on? So from a Buddhist idea of when the body dies, the mind or consciousness or the life force still has degrees of desire, aversion, confusion, gets reborn again from attachments back into another body existence to fulfill its desires, coming back for another nice cup of coffee or another sort of nice sunset or relationship or a car or whatever one's desires are, for which you need one of these fleshy, meaty bodies. But then the pain of that, the issues of that, and all the hassle that goes with supporting that as well. And it may be getting more and more challenging to live. So it's probably for us, this is a really good time to be practicing. Now that we can meet like this and do meditation at home and download some information on the computer. It's like, wow, this is a great time to put in good effort because it may get more complex. There may be more outings or outages from Microsoft in the future, so the computer becomes less reliable. So to make the most of it. So again, we can look into what is and why it's important to appreciate early Buddhism and maintain the practice of that through the course of our Vassa retreat. If you have any questions, certainly bring them to the sessions, the monthly sessions, or otherwise the Thursday night meditation group. We can also talk about it in that as well. So be inspired to make good use of our time. Any questions or comments at the moment? Has anyone been looking into early Buddhism before just now? Anyone heard of the concept? Yeah, a little bit. No one's currently doing a PhD on it.
I'm actually reading a book from a Buddhist monk from Thailand, and the book is called Thai Buddhism. And in it, he mentions that the Buddha is in heaven looking at us. And he also mentions that we have a soul, an eternal soul, and
Right.
we go through about, according to the Buddha himself, that he went through 500 lives, that we're going to go through thousands of lives. So I found that a bit interesting.
Interesting.
And this guy has basically grew up in a monastery. He went as a child and became a monk. So about 60 years of studying Buddhism. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we need to be mindful of. So to know what the Buddha did taught, what was the practices, because things have been modified over time to the point where opinions and views and things that may be interesting or a bit strange or maybe not even right.
Yes. And the book was commissioned by the king.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right. The current king in Thailand.
I guess so.
Yeah.
It was published in 2001 or something like that.
Okay. So. Yeah. It was 2001. When did the old king die? Should have been around that time as well. Yeah.
With Ajahn Sujato, that's doing scholarly.
Yes, Ajahn Sujato
on early Buddhism. He's retranslating a lot of stuff.
Yep.
Because translations also have a big impact on how Buddhism's understood and English doesn't always necessarily have anything that they can use to translate.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
So it's confusing. And Ajahn, can't think of his name.
Brahmali?
No, Tiraso, the American.
Tanisaro,
Tanisaro.
yeah.
He's written a lot about Buddhism in the West and is quite critical of how Westerners seem to have this predisposition in lots of cases, not every, for picking and choosing what they'll use and not use. And if the practice seems too hard, they'll think, oh, I'm not going to do that's too hard, I'll look for something else. And so they mix a lot of different concepts together and only do what they want to do, which may not be helpful in terms of the actual teachings themselves. It's a bit like the New Age movement was with adopting practices from Indigenous peoples' religious practices and rituals and reinterpreting them to suit themselves, and then coming up with all sorts of different philosophies and ideas about what all of that meant to Indigenous people without necessarily even having any contact with Indigenous people to know firsthand what was thought by those people or practiced by those people.
Yeah, it's a really, really important point. And Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, the Tibetan master, spoke about that as spiritual materialism.
Yeah.
Where people sort of the marketplace, spiritual marketplace. I'll have a bit of this and a bit of that, which we can even see society very much that's the sentiment. You go to into a shopping center and there's 50 different types of yogurt or milk or whatever, so that people sort of choose something specifically that they want that suits them, which may not be pure milk or pure yogurt. It's sort of got additives and extras and things, and so that's a sentiment or approach that can certainly happen with the Buddhist teachings as well. And the idea of translation, that's another significant thing, because a lot of the what's printed in English, which is generally pretty good, but it's come from a lot of early translations that were done by often German scholars that did the best that they could do. But again, they were coming from their conditioning, which may have been a sort of Judeo-Christian type of conditioning and approach, and therefore translating Pali or Sanskrit in a certain way based upon their sort of mental structures and ideas. So it's good that Sujato and also Ajahn Brahmali and Anali have gone right back to the original teachings, not just looking at German translations and then sort of, oh, we'll find an equivalent English word to that, but actually go right back to the fundamental teachings and finding out what they mean, what they say, comparing them with some of the Chinese translations as well, because early Buddhism was also, or just after early Buddhism in China, to get sort of a really clearer picture of what's real, what's right. Any other thoughts or comments?
So, John, what were you saying earlier about him saying the early Buddhist teachings were a different era and were you saying they're not relevant anymore?
So Analio said that they're not, we can't go back to that time because we've already have conditioning beyond that. He, in the article, he mentions like we can't live as the ancient Greeks did. We can study ancient Greek philosophy, we can appreciate it, but we're coming at it with our own conditioning and views and perspectives. So that because there was at that time, early Buddhism, people's minds were maybe different, more simple than what we sort of have. So we can appreciate, we can maybe engage some of the practices, which certainly have come all the way through to where we are today, but we can't go back to that old time.
Ajahn Sujato has got a really interesting introduction to what it was like in the Buddhist time and how things back then were different to how their things are being interpreted now, or how we live now. But it's a really good overview of that sort of period that they're talking about in early Buddhism, and how they've come to their interpretations or their translations from that perspective. And it's important to understand that basically ancient India, and the area that the Buddha lived in was a very different environment to even 500 years after
sure,
the Buddha
yeah.
died. And I think if it hadn't been for Ashoka taking up Buddhism and converting to Buddhism and leaving inscriptions around northern India that could be used also as signposts to the Buddha's time. And then I think it was his son that went to Sri Lanka.
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
To establish Buddhism there. And I suppose, does that mean that the Buddhism they practice in Sri Lanka is really the oldest surviving approach closest to what was being taught?
Yeah, well, even there it has been modified, and they also have,
over a long period
but
of time.
certainly,
Yeah.
and from Sri Lanka, then it went to Burma, and then to Thailand, and then to Laos. So it's certainly that flow through, but yes, King Ashoka and his son, and also ordained as a monk. I think his name was Mahinda, and also Sanghamitra, a nun, bhikkhuni. They went to Sri Lanka to bring the teachings to Sri Lanka, and then it sort of flowed on from there. But do you know the name of is it an article or a book that Ajahn Sujato's done?
It's on his website. It's where he's got all these translations of the Pali canon. It's all set out.
So Sutta Central?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So note that website is called Sutta, S-U-T-T-A, Sutta Central. Sutta means discourse. So it's a great resource. When I do a mail out, I'll add that web link in as well.
I think the social context of language is also useful to remember in introduction to Ajahn Tiradharma's book, Eye Making. He talks about the Buddha teaching in northern India with a very Vedic culture, and then utilizing some of the terms that the Veda people would understand, and using that to sort of try and teach. So some of the language came out of people recognizing terms from a different tradition. I can't remember the exact article, but I think one of the words he was, because there's a lot of fire imagery in Vedic culture. So he was talking about some of the terms. Is it even the term for even nirvana? Is that something about putting the fire out?
Blowing out.
So some of that terminology was really as a reference or as a way of contextualizing other people's understanding at that time.
Yeah.
And now language, we're looking at that term in a very different social context.
Yeah. Turn it into some pop group. But yes, that's very, very relevant. And so that context and some of those appreciations, certainly they translate across time, but others of them are quite sort of just centric to that time and place where the Buddha might have been speaking in a particular way where people could relate to it. And as Analia points out in his article, Buddhism is as a phenomenon, it's organic, it's changing, it's evolving, but it's also good to not lose its fundamental core of what it is, what the Buddha taught, what the practices are. And so we're able to, yes, things evolve, language, concepts, practices, but not to the point that it loses the relevance and semblance of a path towards enlightenment that the Buddha taught. So again, if you wish to look into early Buddhism, I'll be sending out some articles and things that can be quite interesting as part of your own practice and understanding. So maybe time for some mindful eating, some mindful lunch. So it's about 12:15, and we take 45 minutes. Feel free to either sit in here, have some lunch, a cup of tea, coffee, sit outside, and we'll connect back at 1 o'clock, and feel free to, if you want to have a mindful chat with somebody, do so. Not talking about things that are going to be too worldly and distract one or someone else in their meditation, but feel free to connect and share, and a sense of community. So enjoy some nice sunshine outside. So mindful meditative lunch eating, mindful meditative talking, connecting, communicating, sharing. Now there's a little bit of a breeze coming up. It does get quite windy here, being on a ridge. So last night or sort of early evening, lots of wind, lots of leaves strewn around, sticks and twigs coming down. So for our afternoon session, some more meditation, developing our mindful momentum. So settling into our afternoon, we can begin with a sitting meditation. So we'll sit like before, about 30 minutes, then do some mindful walking, 30 minutes, come back in, do another sitting for about 30 minutes, and then have some time for debriefing, any questions, answers, comments, and then finishing up. And again, if you do want to sit a bit longer, rather than go out walking, or go out walking after a longer sit, but say 10 minutes, it's fine. So using the time well. So again, settling in, settling down, relaxing back into being and knowing rather than doing and thinking. Being here, now, aware, knowing the present moment, particularly through connecting to that fundamental experience of breathing. What the Buddha spoke about is anapanasati, one of the foundation discourses, foundation teaching on meditation, anapanasati, mindfulness of the in and out breath, which leads all the way through to full freedom, spiritual liberation. So having established a comfortable sitting position, lining the body with symmetry, balance, poise, breathing out any stress, tension, relaxing and feeling into the body, sensing and feeling this body, the body, sitting, checking in on a few contact sensations, feet connecting with the floor, body connecting with the chair, cushion, or meditation stool. The placement of the hands and fingers, making sure they feel comfortable, adjusting them if we need to. Awareness of our face, feeling the air against our face, and also the perception of subtle light coming in through the closed eyelids. Maybe a few background sounds, but not being distracted or disturbed by those. or especially not being attracted, distracted into the internal sound of thoughts, thoughts occurring as a mental voice that we hear, a mental image that we see, but rather consciously directing our attention to connect with the present moment through each individual breath. So directing attention and holding attention to that point of sensation where we feel the breath the most, allowing and letting go, allowing the breath in, then letting it go, a sense of receiving and relinquishing, receiving and relinquishing. This breath being the connecting element between mind and body, the body breathing, the mind attending or knowing, developing this calm clarity, directed attention to each soothing therapeutic breath. Feeling the breath, whilst also looking into the lightness, brightness through the closed eyelids, using a mental mantra, mental meditative words or two in the mind in conjunction with each in-out breath. Exercising attention, developing focus, leading to mental collectedness, mental composure, concentration, inner peace and presence. So feel free to either keep sitting or to do some walking meditation. And we'll meet back here at in about 30 minutes, 2 o'clock, for a bit more meditation and some further reflections and debriefing. So continue. Settling into our meditation, the last meditation for today. So settling into a calm, mindful mode, culmination of all the moments of mindfulness we've been developing through this day. Bringing the mind into the moment, into body awareness, sensing the body sitting, mind in the body in the mind. Noticing the subtle movement of the body as it breathes, and just letting the body breathe itself. And simply noticing and feeling that movement, the movement of the breath, particularly the sensation of the breath. Ideally at one point, one reference point, the inflow, outflow, developing one pointed attention, strengthening focus, developing and deepening concentration, a calm, clear, concentrated mind, developing this inner purity of mind, power of mind, to be aware, alert, present, attentive, undistracted, undisturbed by sensory experience, allowing profound peace and joy of a calm, clear mind. The mind moved beyond the ways of the world, the issues and concerns of self, thoughts about past or future, experiencing something beyond all of that, peace and presence. So how do we feel now? Good now? Better now? So a special occasion to come together, share together, be together around mindfulness, mindful awareness, presence of mind, practicing meditation, and learning some wisdom principles to live and engage our life from. And again, not just for this day, but ultimately onwards into the rest of our life, and particularly for the 3-month Vassa period. So the retreat doesn't just finish in half an hour. It continues as that 12-week block of time where we can designate that time and devote time, energy to internal growth, spiritual practice, which flows on outwards, so working from the inside out. And that flows on into the way in which we live, engage, be, relate, experience life. Further to that appreciation, I'd highly recommend giving thought to how you want to best use the 3 months, apart from regular meditation practice, and what you hope to fulfill. What is my intention for this block of time? Again, this 3 months, which is a quarter of the year. 12 weeks, but it will go quickly, especially as the weather warms up and as we move into spring. So it's a good way to develop practices and so forth that move us with mindfulness into the end of the year, that often can become, as we've heard before, the silly season. So it becomes more of a sensible season of mindfulness and care, joy and quality connections. So think about what the intention is over the next 3 months, and also what particular practices you might like to engage, extra things, obviously within the context of your life and roles and responsibilities, but ideally a little bit extra than what we might usually be putting into our practice. Any thoughts or considerations around that for yourself? Anyone like to share what they might like to engage, enable, partake of, develop over the next 3 months? Justin?
Well, reflecting on today, I have a sense there's a feeling of excitement at the beginning of this Vassa retreat, and there's a bit of memory attached to that. This is my 3rd Vassa retreat here,
good.
And I remember coming into my first Vassa retreat with quite a sporadic practice, and my intention in that first retreat was to I suppose come out with a much more solid practice foundation, and that indeed was the case, and I've sort of maintained a daily practice since then, which has been really beneficial. And the sense of excitement that has been here today, I think that from an intentional point of view, your question, I want to deepen that practice. But the reflection also made me consider that sometimes the pitfalls of practice are there's a certain mechanical nature to practice, and maybe just want to look into what yeah, what sort of methodologies or tools can be put into being aware of that danger of mechanistic practice. So you've talked before about maybe an intention before meditation practice, and I try and use a sense of joy and getting up and I've got this time to sit and yeah, so just sort of I just part of that excitement today is sort of refers back to a sort of danger of mechanistic practice.
So obviously routine's important, you know, scheduling and routine, but not to make it a type of perfunctory practice, but more like there's an aliveness, there's an alertness, there's an openness in that, and that comes from the state of mind that we engage into the practice, so that we're not just haphazard in, oh yeah, get up and do the practice as usual and here we go again, but more the sense of beginner's mind attitude, where even though we're doing something that we've done many times before, and we know how to do it, but we're doing it with a fresh mind, like a beginner would approach an experience. Even like each breath, you know, how many millions or billions of breaths that we had in our lifetime, but to sit down and just focus on each individual breath as if it's a brand new, fresh breath that we've never had before, which is the case anyway. And that lends a certain focus and appreciation and connectedness. But the same with the meditation, the same with each day as well. So yes, another day, another dawn, but in many ways it's one that we've never ever had before in this lifetime. So fresh mind or beginner's mind as an attitude. Is that sort of what you mean?
Yeah. So maybe that answers what my intention is going to be for this Vassa retreat, and is to remind myself of the beginner's mind for daily meditation practice.
Because yes, you've done past Vassa retreats, but you haven't done this one.
No.
It'll be different.
So yeah, that sense of re-energizing, re-energizing practice. Not that it was in a state of non-energy, but
but just being aware that it doesn't go into that sort of perfunctory type of experience, keeping that edge. Any other thoughts or considerations around how to use the Vassa retreat for practice? Maybe less TV, or getting to bed earlier, doing some reading, not flicking through the phone at night. Brendan?
Yeah, I've been trying to focus more on kindness. So I think that's something I'd like to focus on throughout the Vassa retreat, is building that as more of a, you know, fundamental, natural way to interact with others. So, and building that foundation of morality and virtue for my meditation practice. So I think, to Justin's point, I've been meditating every day for, over 18 months now, and finding a lot of benefit in that. But I think to completely abandon those 5 hindrances, I really need to make sure that morality and loving kindness is there all the time in my daily life, not just something that I focus on when I meditate, or when I go on retreats.
For sure, that metta, quality of metta, kindness, friendliness, care is a great healing balm, but also a great psycho-spiritual immunity to being infected by stress, negativity that's out there, or even within our own mind. So it's a great quality to engage, to develop, engage, and to spread and share as well. And a good idea that using the retreat period to develop a particular quality. So certainly kindness or metta. Someone else might go, well, I've got a really challenging time ahead. I'm going to develop patience. There's going to be stuff I need to be patient with, or a certain stuff's going to be happening, so I need to be committed. I'm going to develop commitment, focus. So various virtues or qualities that you can also engage with over the period of time as well. Might be one quality for the next 3 months, or one each month over the next 3 months, or one quality each week. So the first month, the four spiritual emotions: kindness, compassion, joy with and for others, then equanimity. Then it might be, okay, I'm going to look at the 4 right efforts: effort to avoid negativity, effort to abandon negativity, effort to develop wholesomeness, effort to maintain wholesomeness, or looking into the four noble truths. So whatever you feel could be an extra practice to engage upon over the 12 weeks. Christine?
I want to continue doing the practice of an introductory practice, spiritual practice, prayers and things that I do in the morning, and taking 5 precepts every day, if not more than once a day, to remind myself, because it's very easy to forget, especially the precept about right speech.
Yep, for sure.
Frivolous speech. Because in our culture, it's very easy to get drawn into frivolous speech, especially gossip, that kind of thing, that you just, people around you are doing it, and you participate without even giving it a second thought.
Yeah.
And then you think, oh, I did the precepts this morning. I need to do that, revisit. Because I think they really help you to keep on track and mindful of all the things you talked about, being responsible and kind and virtuous, and building that foundation. And also spending more time reading about and understanding the 4 noble truths and the Eightfold Path, because there's an awful lot of detail in all of that to get your head around. So it's really an ongoing process.
For sure. That's very good. And certainly some devotional practices in the morning can really set the mind right, setting the mind right for the day. A little bit of chanting, if you like, which could be in Pali, Sanskrit, or English, just to incline the mind towards the right direction. A sense of aspiration, affirmation, dedication can be quite helpful, and that certainly as well can lead into meditation. The meditation can often be enhanced through those practices. Certainly when I was a Buddhist monk, and that's what Buddhist monks and nuns do, first thing in the morning, together, some chanting, devotional practices, so candles, incense, some chanting, way of connecting, inclining the mind, and then sitting meditation can be very helpful.
That book that I downloaded, I think I showed you, that your first teacher prepared about daily practices for lay people, is a really helpful book.
So by Prakenti Palo.
Yeah,
that's
I
his name.
got it on my iPad, I can't remember, but he gives the background and explains what all of the practices are, and then sets them out for you to to do, and that includes the 5 precepts. And then further to that, there's this further explanation about 8 precepts if you want to do those on full moons or new moons.
Or days like today. Just need to finish your lunch before 12.
Yeah, exactly.
Have a big breakfast.
Explain metta, what metta is and what the 5 precepts are.
Sure. So metta is one of the 4 spiritual emotions, which I think is that the list there? So for divine abidings or spiritual emotions, and the foundation one is Buddhist quality of metta, or loving kindness or friendliness, which is sort of like the modus operandi for engaging, interfacing towards self and towards others. And so it's like out the front, and then balancing either side is compassion and joy with others on the other side. And then behind all of that is the foundation quality of equanimity, that calm composure, dealing with the challenges and stresses and issues of life, a calm, composed mind. And the 5 precepts, they're foundation for living in a wholesome, healthy way, and a foundation for enabling the mind to calm down and quieten down. So living in a way that doesn't cause disturbance, distress for self or others. So the first being refraining from harming living creatures, refraining from taking that which hasn't been given, fundamentally stealing, refraining from wrong sexual conduct, so not engaging in sexual behaviors that cause distress to others. The 4th is refraining from wrong speech, which includes not just lying, but gossip and chatter and malicious speech and idle chatter. And the 5th one is refraining from the misuse of drugs and alcohol, things that intoxicate the mind and affect mindfulness. And the 8 precepts are an added to that. They include then the 3rd one is actual celibacy, as opposed to just refraining from wrong sexual conduct. They also include not eating after noon, and also not using perfumes, cosmetics, beautification of the body, and also singing, dancing, going to entertainments. More of a monastic type of life.
And it's for 24 hours, so you don't have to do it forever if you you can if you want to, but 24 hours is, I don't think it's impossible.
Yeah, and it's not even that. It's really up to how many hours you want to observe those precepts. In Thailand, people go to the monastery and they observe the precepts, and then they go home and have a big party. Was there any online participants that had a question that they want to ask?
Question from earlier.
Yes.
So Melissa was asking, if suffering is from aversion, how do you let go?
How do you let go? Well, letting go should always come from wisdom. So rather than it being a rejection, a type of reaction, but more of a relinquishing of the holding on, especially of anger, even though one might feel quite sort of righteous. Well, I have every right to be angry. I've been hurt. But yes, you can hold on if you want to, but if it then causes one more suffering, and maybe others as well, then it's like, from that wisdom point, what's the point of holding on? Best to let go of the anger, the frustration, the disappointment, the hatred even, and potentially then offer compassion to those that maybe have misunderstood and caught up in the road of greed, anger, ignorance, and acted in an unskillful way to hurt us. So compassion, and then maybe even forgiveness. So we can't sort of force ourselves to let go, but we can ideally let go, because we see what's the point of holding on to anger, especially when it's the main person that it harms is ourselves.
See any other questions?
Okay. Any other questions or comments from our group here?
I was just reflecting that the Vassa retreat is about, the monastic stay in one place. and during this time I won't be. So the retreat's got to be a lot more English for me.
Well, Pip, you can stay in one place, which is always here now. Wherever you are, just be here now. But certainly that spirit of maintaining the practice and doing what one can to be in the place of mindfulness, be in the place of calm awareness, insightful understanding. And again, for us, it's a non-residential Vassa retreat. Some of you are maybe going to be in the same home or same place for the 3 months. Other people may be moving around a bit. That's all okay. In fact, whilst Buddhist monastics, particularly the Theravada school of Buddhism, make this a strict observance, the Vassa retreat. But when I was a Buddhist monk in England and Switzerland, the Vassa retreat, this sort of period was the time when there was so many people coming to the monastery. It wasn't so much a retreatish type of period. We observed this is the retreat period, but because it's summer in Europe, a lot of people come to the monastery, but then in the winter they don't come. So yes, Vassa retreat period, but the more formal retreat period was actually in the winter. So they had it's called a winter retreat. So from December into February, sort of a lockdown, quiet time experience.
John, so with my practice, just going to the basics, I find it really hard. Mobile phone. Discipline. So I did my own 10-day self-silent retreat.
Good.
Went really well. And then 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and then just because I didn't sit for one night and my mind wasn't clear the next morning, I'll just have a look at an email and I'll just look at this. And then it was like 1 hour gone past 2 hours. And so it seems like I maintain my discipline, but then it goes out the window very quickly. So how can I strengthen it without being too hard on myself?
Sure, yeah.
And
Well,
mobile phones.
well, they're good. I've got one too. Almost need one because I use it for seeing clients, Zoom sessions and FaceTime sessions for people, different places. I get emails, I text clients that reminding them of the next session. But it's ideally to see it as an administrator, sort of something that you can use for work, as opposed to just a distraction technique. So if the Buddha was alive today, he'd say, probably right mobile phone use. Number 9, right use of the mobile phone. So, but being aware of how we easily get distracted by them. So it's important to go, okay, I need to be extra mindful. Okay, 3-month period, extra mindful. If I need to use my phone, I use it for certain things, and also I only use it for a certain amount of time, so I don't get distracted into sort of spending time on that and maybe not doing other things.
I feel like if I observe it a little deeper beyond, okay, the distraction is a mobile phone, perhaps it might be the quality of my mind at the time, as opposed to a distractive object, which could be anything else.
Sure, yeah.
So observing that state of mind.
That's good.
Or what's wanting to, no, it's okay, I won't meditate. That's okay. Yeah, what?
Yeah, so even seeing the intention there, or even feeling the urge for distraction, or the urge for some dopamine that comes from looking at something interesting and what you can buy online. So noticing the mental side, the feeling side, the body side, what intention is there. So that becomes a meditation in itself. So it's not just the object, but it's the what's going on inside oneself. And maybe that one's hungry, and so rather than having going and eating something, one sort of hunger for some sights and new things to look at or buy. So it's being aware of that. Stimulation, yeah.
John, I've found that the personification of identifying Mara as, that distraction and delusion
yeah.
has really helped me kind of identify, my mind is wandering off to distraction and to sensory pleasures or whatever that might be. So that's, I don't know, maybe another technique to.
Yeah, that's good. So Mara, the tempter, personification of temptation or desire. So Mara tempting the Buddha before his enlightenment, trying to sort of persuade him away from his final realization. But the Buddha was able to go, Mara, I see you. Mara, I know you. There you are again, Mara. Fundamentally in his own mind. So to be able to even just voicing that when a desire comes up or temptation, Mara, there you are again.
Like a deep sankara, you mean? Like.
Well, yeah.
Deep sankara.
So whether it's desire or delusion or aversion, it's like, there's Mara. In the guise of a mobile phone distraction. And fundamentally, it's the 5 hindrances coming up. So there's desire for sensory pleasures or aversion to something, or dullness, agitation, doubt, all on the mobile phone. Just some electronic sort of energy and information. So it's been wonderful to have you all here this day. It's great to see this room full of people. Hannah and I, in renovating our house a couple of years ago, and renovating this space, which was just fly screens and a sloping concrete floor, but transforming it into a lovely space to share with other people. It's great. And I sit here every morning, meditation, so it's wonderful to be able to sit here and share the space with yourselves. And hopefully you can come back and share the space, certainly over the next months with the Vassa retreat. So you don't need to come to all, but ideally if you can, the next 3 months, the next 3 sessions. But do attend as many as you can. And also the Thursday night meditation group as another support to keep your practice going. And also that we will be, as we have done today, recording the sessions, also the Zoom session. So if you're not around and can't get here, then you can still connect in, or at least sort of view it later as part of your own personal Vassa retreat period. So wonderful. Let's end with just a short meditation, dedication of merit for our day. So taking this time to sit, relax, breathe, settle, feeling into our body, getting a sense of the result of having been here for this day, many hours, many minutes, many moments of being mindful, attentive, aware, wholesome intention to develop and deepen our practice, particularly meditation practice. This day being first of the 4 Vassa retreat days over this 3-month or 12-week period. So feeling good in ourselves for what we've done, appreciating our efforts, sense of inner joy with and for ourselves, appreciating our efforts, being here. sharing our presence with others, creating a sense of collectedness, a sense of community. So feeling really good in what we've done, creating that wholesome energy, good karma, merit, the Buddhist word punya, which means merit. Wholesome karma develops punya, merit. We live according to our merits. It's also important to keep generating wholesome karma, merit that we can live from. And also the possibility of sharing this merit with others. Quality of dana, which is giving, generosity, so we can even share the goodness, good karma, good energy of our life, particularly this day, with others. So maybe bringing to mind someone, or maybe even a few people, even an animal, animals if you wish, if you have animal companions, any being that you'd like to share this good energy, this goodwill, this good vibration with. That sense of whatever goodness has come from my life this day, I give that to these beings. Could be to my beloved partner, parents, children, friends, animals. That sense of even breathing out this good energy towards them, enveloping them with this good energy, a radiance, a light, a vibrancy, energetic frequency of joy and goodwill. May they receive this gift of goodness. May they feel joy. May their mind consciousness be uplifted. May they be fulfilled in their life. So breathing out this goodwill to others. Wishing them well. Returning the awareness back to ourselves. And even wishing ourselves well. May I too be well, happy, free from pain, issue, illness, living my life well. May my life be a gift, a blessing to others. And in feeling good within ourselves, even sharing that with this group here today, our Vassa retreat community and friends. May we all be well, happy, free from pain, issue, illness, living our life well, growing in Dharma practice, practice of truth, towards full and final freedom, liberation. May we support each other through our presence in our practice. And again, back to ourselves, sense of commitment. May I remain committed to my practice, continuing on with mindfulness and joy. When you feel ready to end this brief meditation, just taking a deep breath and slowly opening our eyes to finish. So thank you for being here today and sharing. Hope it's been a meaningful day for you, and certainly continue with the practice, continuing with joy. and hope to see you again soon, next time.
Thank
Thank you.
you.